What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily uploads Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NHL, MLB, NBA, or NFL. And in today's episode, figured Nick, for NFL, it's the middle, of the offseason, OTAs are already done. Kind of news is, kind of quiet because, we got to wait for training camp to ramp up before we get more stuff. But I figured, a team that's gotten a lot of hype all off season and still now is the Chicago Bears. And I want to propose this question to you. Do you think the Bears are getting too much hype? And I brought this question up just for a couple of reasons. Because one, it's not a guarantee that Caleb Williams is going to be great, despite being the number one overall pick. We've seen a lot of top quarterback prospects not work out. And I've mentioned it all offseason. I have questions about his leadership. I think he's kind of a weird guy, not necessarily in a bad way. Just, the vibes are always just off with him going back to college. He got a lot of hate, for doing stuff like, crying after losing a game to his parents. And I wasn't necessarily, critiquing him, because he cried. You can get emotional, but do you really have to do that in front of the public? Like, you can't just wait to go back to the locker room to show some emotion. I mean, it's just we've got a lot of weird vibes from him, going back after winning his Heisman. He's still got a lot of talent. But also, this isn't necessarily just a Caleb Williams thing. It's been a Chicago Bears thing. I remember going into last year how everyone was high on the Chicago Bears and, Justin Fields and how they were going to come into the season and take the league by storm after adding DJ Moore and stuff. And the Bears, they finished last in the division again, 7 wins, and really 3 or 4 of those was just straight the defense winning. I remember they intercepted, I think it was Josh Dobbs 4 times, and they needed a game-winning field goal to win that game 12-10 without scoring any touchdowns. So that just kind of sums up the Bears. I think, I just can't trust him. Matty Eberflus has been a defensive coach. He was on the verge of getting fired before they made this pick, and now he's second or tied for highest odds to win Coach of the Year, and everyone's projecting them to make the playoffs. I don't know, Nick. I'm getting some weird vibes. I just want your thoughts on this, though, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you think, Caleb Williams might be the next Tom Brady or they just take the league by storm. I really do like what they did this offseason in getting him all the help, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that anything's going to be good. So just kind of your thoughts.
I think if you want to say they're getting too much hype, maybe I wouldn't say too much hype. Maybe I'm saying people are, well, I guess you could say hype, but I think just people are speaking maybe a little too highly of them. But when it comes to hype, I think it's deserved just because of, what the Bears have been for pretty much since the 85 Bears. I know they went to a Super Bowl, but, they kind of got smoked by Peyton Manning. That was kind of an off year, kind of a weird year.
Starting that game, Rex Grossman.
Yeah. So, I think it's deserved because I think this is the best team on paper that the Bears have put together in quite some time, especially offensively. The last good Bears team we saw was just an insane defensive team with just Mitch Trubisky being a game manager. So I would say it's deserved, but they need to live up to it now. Like you said, last year, everyone saw Justin Fields the back half of the year, and they're like, oh, this team is going to be crazy. He's the next Lamar. He's going to run all over everybody. And they looked awful just because, they were back to square one. Fields, couldn't throw. They had no weapons. The defense was mid until halfway through the year. But I think it's deserved. Like I said, it's a matter of living up to it. And it's pretty much just the story of Caleb Williams, career is he going to live up to all the expectations and people calling him one of the most sought after prospects since Andrew Luck. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not somebody who, preys on downfalls. So I hope, they can have success in the NFL. And I wouldn't be surprised if this year Caleb Williams is the first ever Bears quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards, which is still
Oh
insane
yeah,
that they don't have that. Like that's actually insane to me that they couldn't even string together one lucky year with that.
yeah, no, and maybe it's just some reckless speculation, boring off-season talk. But maybe you're right. The Bears did do a good job bringing in Keenan Allen, drafting Roma Dunze. But I just everyone's expecting this team to just kind of be that playoff team that no one expects, or there a lot of people just love them. They're thinking 10 wins, but this is still one of the toughest divisions. You still have to beat Detroit. Can they be able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because we both agree the Lions got better. The Green Bay Packers really came on. If they carry that momentum, they're arguably the first or second best team in this division. So can you guarantee wins there? Everyone's expecting the Vikings to take a step back, but the Bears almost got swept by them last year. If it wasn't for Josh Dobbs throwing 4 picks, so it's kind of what can they do to make the playoffs? And I think it's just going to be getting Caleb Williams adapted easily, because no matter how great of a prospect are, NFL and college are completely different. So throwing as many different looks at him in training camp. And I think, different defenses, and this Bears defense is a good defense to go up against, because the way they ended last season, they were like a top 10 unit.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to, can he, I would say at first, ease him into the thing. You've got the weapons, to do it. And I'm just hoping, I think Luke Getsy's still the offensive coordinator there. Can they do enough? And can Matt Eberflus coach good enough? Because I haven't seen him do it the first 2 seasons he's been here. Can he do enough to, help this team? That's what I'm going to, be looking for. Because maybe it's coaching Matt Eberflus. I don't really trust them that much, which is maybe why I'm having some doubts about them. But overall, we both agreed the Bears did a good job this offseason in the draft. So it's just going to come down to, can the performance on the field translate with Caleb Williams' success in college?
Yep. And I was going to ask you, because a question it kind of came into my mind. If the Bears go 9-7 this year, do you call that a successful season, even if they miss the playoffs? Because it's a tough division to like. They went 7-10.
It really depends how they got there, and I mean that. Like if
say it's like an offensive led, like say the defense isn't as expected, like what it was last half of the year.
Oh yeah, then that's 100% a win. If Caleb Williams in this offense really starts clicking, obviously you're going to have weeks, or maybe I'm not going to be one of those guys. Even though we're speculating now, if Caleb Williams, has an off first couple of weeks, he sucks, draft bust. But I'm going to see, how the offensive looks as it progresses towards the end of the season, and, where they finish over on the rankings, yards, touchdowns, interceptions. They don't tell the whole story, but, looking behind the back of the football card numbers, his EPA per play, is he overachieving or is he underachieving? So, it's just going to be all that kind of stuff that I'm looking at. And, it's going to be interesting because, like I said, they're a very polarizing team. But, yeah, no, if they were to get to 9 wins around there and miss the playoffs, but their offense, was, got a lot better, finished high in some categories. And, Caleb Williams looked, good, at least down the stretch, parts of it. I could, get behind that. But, if they get to 9 wins, kind of like how they did at the end of this year, where they just lumped their way to, 10-7 victories in the hard fought game, I don't know. I'd still have really doubts. Like, can this team ever? I would say Matt Eberflus should still get fired. You need to bring in an offensive minded head coach. Obviously it's only going to be year 1, so you're going to run it back with Caleb unless he looks like Nathan Peterman. But there's going to be expectations, in Chicago is one of the biggest markets. So there's going to be pressure to do well and to see this offense do well. And I think the Bears, as much as they want to see them win games, they'd rather see it with their offense than their defense, because they've seen it with their defense before. They're kind of tired of their defense probably bailing them out too much. So it's going to come down to, what can this offense do to get to that goal of 9 to 10 wins? Because if it's just a defensive led thing, that's great, but you're never going to be a real Super Bowl contender. And if your defense finishes that high, typically they're always due for a step back. Like that 2018 team, that defense was still good, but they took a step back and missed the playoffs entirely. So that's going to be the keys I'm looking for. Yeah, if it's Or, if it's a little bit of both, I would still call that a win in year one, but I need to really see it before I believe
Okay.
it.
Yeah. The way I am kind of projecting this year to go for the Bears, and I could be way off, but it's just from, all the acquisitions they made and everything.
Mhm.
I think the way they're building this team is going to be very similar to the Lions. And we saw, 2 years ago, the Lions looked rough this beginning half of the year, but then their offense just lit everybody up. They just had no defense, so they missed out on the playoffs. But I think, but what I want to ask you, like after saying that, because that's how I think they would have to make the playoffs is their offense. I don't think their defense can carry them there. But
Mhm.
I was going to ask you now that we've talked about it, what do you think is more realistic to happen? Do you think it's more realistic that their offense, is a top 10 offense in the league and carries them to 9 or 10 wins? Or do you think it's more realistic that, say, the offense is middle of the pack, maybe 15 to 20 range, and the defense is really, pulling the weight of the team, and that's what gets them into the playoffs? Like, what's more realistic? I know you said it's more of a win if the offense shows up this year, but
I
I
think
think, yeah,
I
I just
think
want to
as
hear it.
much as I would like to say it's a good question. As much as I would like to say, their offense, because I want to see Caleb do well. As much as I want to say, this offense, instantly becomes top 10 and lights the league up, I think it's going to come with growing pains. So I think it's more realistic to have it be a team effort where they finish like middle of the pack, like 15th, maybe in points, maybe around there in yards as well. And the defense kind of doing their part around like the 10th range, like end of last season more so to kind of help get them in. I think it's going to be a both sides of the ball effort. I can't really see this defense regressing all the way back to like, where was it the first half of the year? And it's like, shit, Caleb Williams, you got to score 30 points. And I can't see, I can't see a world in which you got all these weapons, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, now Roma Dunze, where Justin Fields, even though he can throw the ball, they'd have weeks where they put up a lot of points. And you got a prolific passing Caleb where they finish like bottom 10 in offense. So I'm expecting, somewhere in like the 12 to 15 range, I think is more realistic because obviously he's a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains. I think, he's going to have some great games, but there's also going to be some games where it's like, damn, like he showed he was a rookie there because, all great rookies, they're all great, players make mistakes at the quarterback position. So, it's going to be, I think it's going to be, and there's a lot of expectations coming in. So he's going to have to learn on the fly as a rookie. He doesn't have the luxury like a JJ McCarthy or a Drake May to kind of just sit and learn for a little bit, hopefully.
Right. I think you made a good point how like there's probably going to be growing pains. So I think if this offense throughout the year can sit around, I want to say like 23 to 24 points per game,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be enough for them to get in the playoffs if their defense, plays the way they did last year at the end of the year, when they ended up getting 7 wins. But I think if they don't need to, light the league on fire like CJ Stroud did last year in order to get in. But it's going to be tough, with that division. Like you have 2 teams ahead of you at least in the Packers and the Lions. Those teams both, made the playoffs last year, made pretty deep runs, I would say, into the playoffs last year. Could have won the games they lost in the playoffs last year. The Packers could have won.
Both could have easily been the 49ers. Both could have
Yeah.
easily been.
Yeah,
It could
exactly.
have been.
And the 49ers are regarded as a top 3 team in the league. So if you
It could
have
have been Packers. It could have been Packers Lions in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And I think I have that as my projection this year. Yeah. Overall, though, yeah, should be a very interesting thing. We'll see how Caleb Williams looks in training camp. Just kind of, see how the defense and offense look. But overall, should be an exciting time in Chicago because like you said, there hasn't been this much optimism in a while.
on
So,
the offense side of the ball, at least.
Yeah, at least on the offense.
I think even when they took Trubisky, fans were like, "What are you doing? Trading up to get Mitchell Trubisky is kind of like."
Yeah, maybe after that 13-win or 12-win season they had, though, maybe they had a lot more because they're like, all right, we were 1 field goal away. Let's go to the Super Bowl. And then, stuff happens. But, yeah, should overall be very interesting. I'm going to be excited as a Vikings fan to see this team in my division, see how they're doing, watch them. And I get to watch them at least twice a year fully. when they play my Vikings. But overall, should be exciting. Like I said, let us know in the comments if you guys think the Bears are getting too much hype, or is it rightfully deserved. We kind of think both kind of agreed. Maybe it is a lot of hype, but could be something that they live up to. And you gotta that's all you can do. Shut the haters up. But with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll catch you next one. Peace.